Hi flower friends, it's Madonna from Eastside Flower Farm, Los Angeles, California, Zone 9. It is really cold outside, but I'm down to my last probably 30 roses to prune. I have probably about 350 of them done, so I figured I'd do a video on how to prune your roses. So this is a grandiflora. There's a lot going on here. It is basically, it's one stem with multiple shoots on the end. It gets a cluster of flowers, but it can get up to 5 to 6 feet tall. So they're really big roses. So I chose this one to do a video because its leaves have already all fallen off. So these, you know, they're dormant. This tells me they're all dormant, and it's January. I never prune my roses after January because for me, I feel like by February it's already getting warmer and they're going to start doing their thing again. So my idea here, first of all, my first year roses, if I just plant it first year, meaning like if you just plant it in February as a bare root, and once it's finished the whole year, that's its first year. Its first year's done. So when I go to prune it the next year, I only prune my first year ones, second year ones about a third. This one, you know, I want to take it at least half of what it is now because they just get so huge. So I really want to control its size. So when you're looking here, it's just a jumble, and it's really easy to try to figure out what the heck you're going to do. So when you're pruning, the idea is you're looking for a vase. You want it a vase shape, so an empty center, so it gets airflow. Because if it doesn't get airflow, then they're more susceptible to disease and rot, and then they don't look very good. So you're looking for a vase shapes, which means you want your canes, which are the stems, they're called canes. You want them to actually be open center and fold out like this, and then you have a nice bush that's kind of round on the top. So first of all, what I usually do is I look at the plant and I decide, well, before I even start thinking about what I want to do or how I'm going to do it, I just start pruning it down so I can get it to a size. So this one I already know because it's shooting off in the middle. And remember I said I want to have an open vase like. So this one I already know because it's shooting off. I'm going to get rid of it. Ooh. So what I do, I have my Falco number 6, they're small. I have my Falco number 2s, and they're bigger. And then I have my loppers for the big ones, and sometimes it is a multiple job thing. So with the roses, what you always want to do is cut anything that's dead, dying, diseased, or damaged. That is your 4 Ds that you're always looking for. And other than that, there's no right or wrong way. Well, rosarians will tell you that, but as long as you're pruning your rose, you know, whether you cut it on a slant or outward bud, that's nice to do because when you cut it, there's these, Braden, can you get in a little closer? Can you zoom and show these little buds here? This is where they start breaking bud. So the idea is when you see a bud on a cane, you want to cut about a quarter inch above it, slanted, because the idea is where this bud break is, that's where your stem's going to be. So you want it to grow out because remember we said we don't want anything going in toward the center. We want to leave that center open. So, you know, that's always an important thing to do. And really, even if you don't do that, there's no rose police that's going to come after you. They're not going to. So, okay, so we're going to take, I know I want this halfway down. So we're just going to randomly, without giving it much thought, I'm just going to cut some of this to control it. So these long branches, they're canes, actually, again, they're canes, are just going to come off. And that way I have a little bit more of an idea of what to do because it's really overwhelming when you walk up to a rose like this and there's all these canes, which like I said, is the stem. They're just sticking out everywhere. It's so overwhelming to figure out what you're going to do. So now it's a little more controlled. I'm looking at this. First thing I'm going to do is everything, all these small little stems, anything that's essentially smaller than a pencil, you're just going to cut those off because you do not want the energy to go to these. You want the energy to go to the canes that already look nice. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to look for anything that's dead. This has got dead on it. So I'm just going to lop it off. And, okay, here's the first thing before you even prune. You want your rose gloves. These are leather, and then it's like a vinyl leather underneath it, because you're gonna get ouched if you don't, and you're never gonna be able to prune your roses. You will make up swear words the whole time. So you wanna have your gloves, and these are Bionic. I love them. I have very small hands, and they're the only gloves that fit without the tips folding over, and that just drives me nuts. So you wanna start with your good gloves. And just for a little fun fact, that these are not called thorns on a rose. They're actually called prickles, because thorns are actually a part of the stem. They're the growth with it. These are little prickles because they actually pop off. You can pop them off, and they don't damage the rose at all, the cane. They're just sitting on the outside of the stem, so they're actually little prickles, but they are prickly, and they do hurt. And so most people call them thorns, but they're actually prickles. There you go, fun fact for the day. So now I'm looking at this. So this is dead. I know I'm gonna cut it off. So first of all, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look for anything in the center that's crossing over. So right here, because remember, I'm looking for a vase. So this is already, you really want to clean all the leaves out from underneath it too, so you can get a good visual. So right now, just from where I'm looking, I can see that this stem is crossing over into it. So I am going to actually, I'm going to find, sometimes they're hard to get into because this one's so congested. So that one's going to fall. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to cut these little guys off. I'm going to cut this down to a bud. This one, I'm going to cut it back. So you just want to get in there and start figuring out where you're at. This one's in the center too much, so I'm going to cut it off. So what you're really looking for is about, on your hybrid teas, I would say 3 to 5 really good canes left. On, the grandifloras and the floribunda, maybe 5 to 7, somewhere in that route. So all these, we're just going to come through. We're going to cut them off, because you need to really be able to see where you're at. So I wouldn't even worry about the bud right now. Just cut those little ones off. Just go ahead and take them. This cane, if I'm looking up like this, remember I want a vase, I can tell this one's going to be in my way. So I'm going to reach down here, and I'm going to chop it off. And some of these are really hard, which is why I have my pruners too. So I have to take that one out, because that is in the center and it's not gonna work well. So these two, see these two right here, they're kind of crossing over. See how they're crossing? This one goes out good. Wrong shirt to wear. One of these has to go. So this one's straight up and this one's kind of going out. So I'm gonna actually take the oldest one out. This is more green. You can tell this is the younger one, and I like the way it's going out in the vase. So that one I'm actually gonna keep. I'm gonna go through here and cut these off. Outward facing bud is right there. So this has a lot going on. I'm gonna cut this one right here. Just take it off. I'm gonna leave this one. See there, just don't be afraid to cut roses. People are so intimidated that they're gonna do the wrong things. Roses are gonna grow regardless, because that's what they do. They just grow. So don't be afraid to come in and cut it and that you're gonna do the wrong thing. As long as you're not cutting into the base that's buried right now, because I've had gopher in here. So as long as you're not cutting into the stalk base, your roses, they're gonna do just fine. So we're gonna look here. So I kind of feel like right here, there's too many going on. So I'm gonna choose to cut out this one, which is the oldest one. When in doubt, always take the oldest one out, because they get tired, the oldest ones. The new ones they're gonna do well. They're fresh, they're nice and green. They're gonna throw up a lot of buds for you, a lot of flowers. This has too many little ones. I'm gonna find an outward facing bud, slant cut it. And I have done both. I slant and I cut straight across, and it really doesn't matter. And I've heard people say, maybe in colder areas, because we're in zone 9, so the coldest we've gotten this year, we've had 2 or 3 24-degree nights. and then lots of 27, 28. So if you're really in the cold area, it might be different, but I've heard people say that they glue the tops. I think it's a waste because as soon as it rains, it washes off. So I wouldn't even worry about that. So right here, I have another cluster, and I'm just looking at these. This one's the older one. It's facing out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my loppers and cut it right off. And like I said, don't be afraid to cut it, because what you're looking for is that open vase. So I already know, like I said, that my visual is to have this about halfway down. And right now it's looking pretty good, and it's super overwhelming when you look at a rose and there's 50,000 stems in here. So I like this. This is a jumbled mess. So I'm looking, and my first thought is I'm going to take out this whole stem right here because it's older. It's got a lot going on. This one is a little bit in the way, but you know what? Because I prefer the younger stems over the older stems, I'm going to take my loppers. I'm going to go right down the base here, and I'm going to chop it off. That is for another day. So now I'm down to, I got some pretty good. This one, after we're done filming, I'm actually going to take this one a little shorter. So this one now is kind of, it's got a lot going on too. I'm just going to find, there's an outward bud right there, and I really don't want to cut it that short. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to slant cut this, take that stem off. Here's a little one right here. I'm going to cut it right there. So this, and now there's also a dead one right here. Dead little stem. Take it off. So always, no matter what time of year it is, if you walk by and you see black on your rose and it's dead, cut it off. It doesn't matter if you cut it back to the base. It doesn't matter if it's the heat of the summer. You want that plant to give off energy to all the good stems, canes. So you do not want to leave that on there. So this one, I'm actually going to cut this one right up to this base. So this little one I'm going to take off. So this is essentially how I'm going to leave this now, because I have taken something that had a bazillion stems on it, and we had to really kind of dissect down to what we want. It's open, it's a vase, there's going to get lots of airflow in here. Anytime, if you have to have leaves left over, if you have to, if there's still leaves on them, you want to make sure you strip them all off. You want no leaf left on there, because if these have any disease spores in them and they lay underneath the ground, well, that's just going to recontaminate your rose the next year. And always important, you always want to clean up all the leaf litter. Do not leave any of that underneath your rose. You want it clean. This I'm going to go through. I'm going to push back some of the dirt because, like I said, the gophers were in here this year, and thank goodness these are probably 5 or 6 years old, or they might have got the roots chopped. So here is what we're looking for. Open vase, nothing in the center. So what's going to happen is all these little bud breaks are going to go. They're going to throw up more stems. It's going to fill out. It's going to be huge by springtime with big, beautiful flowers. So I also know people that cut them way back, to 3, 4, 5 inches. People do it. I have done it before too. I've chopped roses every single way, and they're just fine too. With these bigger ones, I prefer to not go any more than half. A third, first, second year, then a half. And I have cut them back to here if they didn't look good, and I just wanted to, I just wanted to save them. So they are really super hardy. Don't be afraid to cut them. Just go in there and have a good time. Don't overthink it. All the little ones, just chop them off, cut it off first at about half so you can actually get a visual of it. And you will enjoy your blooms for the rest of the year. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.